Oh, hello everybody. Today we're talking about scuds. Are they good? Are they duds? Are they helpful? Are they destroyers? Or are they studs? All bad poetry aside, today we're going to go over the good and bad of scuds. This little jar here is just a little collection I took earlier out of my green water tank. I'll show you more about that later. Kind of hard to keep these guys in focus. See a lot of little babies floating around in there. But yeah, let me show you a couple of tanks and the way that scuds have affected them, good and bad. So if you have any questions as to whether you should get them yourself, this will be a helpful video in that, and you'll get to see some of the extents of the damage that they do and some of the extents of the benefits of having them. So let's move on to our pea puffer tank over here. For those of you who have been watching, you know, well, for one, that I have an annoying cat that likes to meow every time I start recording. But this tank was completely overcome with scuds. They destroyed most of the vegetation. You can see these plants here just like skinny little sticks until you get up near the tops of them. That's because the scuds ate all the greenery off of them. There goes a pea puffer there, but part of the benefit of scuds is that if you have fish that'll eat them, you don't have to feed those fish. I've had pea puffers for about 4 years now, and to this date I've never had to feed them because I've always had plenty of shrimp, snails, or scuds, or a combination. Let me see if we can get in close here and see any scuds. They're kind of hiding right now. The pea puffers are definitely doing their job. And if you watched that video, you may remember they were still pretty small puffers. That was just a couple months ago. And now they're pretty much fully grown adults. And if you want to see me introduce them to the large colony of adults, stay tuned. Some pseudo-McGill luminatus there showing off. But anyhow, this is a tank that has, for one, started to get destroyed by scuds. I think maybe we'll see a little scud crawling around right over here in the gravel. We'll focus. But there is actually thousands of them in here still. Just with the pea puffers, they keep them under control. But they won't completely eliminate them if you have gravel, because they'll just reproduce in the gravel. Looks pretty. Rocket killies. But let's move to a tank just next door here. This is my green water tank. As many of you know, perpetual green water tank. I have a video on that. Full of guppies. And if you know my series on this tank, I typically try to keep in between, somewhere between 200 and 400 guppies in here at any time to keep this green water going. But another tool that I have in here that keeps everything clean. Now they're going to make a liar out of me. This is take 2, but this was full of scuds. Oh, you can see a little scud there on the leaf, but normally these you'll see a few scuds in there, but the roots get full of scuds, and then I just shake the roots out in a jar, that jar that I showed you earlier. I actually harvested that from this earlier today. All those scuds were on this one set of roots. You see a few scuds in there crawling for life. But also with the scuds, Come down here. I'm going to have to get my flashlight out. There's a big mama. Ooh, I got to clean my glass. If we look down here in this mulm, you'll see some movement. Some of it. Yeah, you can see the little scuds down in there. And the green water, it kind of settles out over time. Makes like a green smoothie. And then the scuds eat that all up and break it down into fertilizer. It helps keep the aquarium clean. See a little scud right there. But yeah, this tank is full of scuds. And unfortunately, all of my tanks that I've got scuds in, they've ended up kind of taking over. So, will they eat your plants? Yes, if they run out of food, and sometimes it'll seem like they're doing really good, but then all of a sudden they'll have a population explosion, and they'll eat whatever's in your tank. In this tank, not only do they eat that greenery, but they eat the baby guppies too. So, you see some of these guppies in here, they're not real small, but if you have like a brand new bunch of fry, they will latch onto the fry and eat them. The scuds will. Let's move over to another tank. One down past the part of the jungle here. So, this is my albino guppy tank. And as you can see, that guppy grass in there doesn't look so hot. Does it, Marshmallow? Yeah. But anyhow, this had an explosion. This was completely full of guppy grass, rooted and everything. But within about a month's time, they ate this down to just a few remaining pieces of guppy grass that was left. So yes, they can destroy your planted tanks. And then, hi Marshmallow, trying to get my attention. Trying to get my attention, huh? Yeah. Yeah. You bite. So right here, we have, and you may have seen this video before, the self-feeding pea puffer tank. See that pea puffer right there in the reflection of the cat hanging out under the wood. Chunky dude there. But as you can see, my guppy grass in here is pretty well picked apart. I had a scud explosion in all my tanks recently and just devastated a lot. But for the most part, you won't see any hair algae in any of my tanks with scuds, or where the scud populations are taking control. They clean your tank so well. So that would be a benefit. Probably the best algae eaters you could get. Don't have to clean your glass because they clean it for you. Let's try moving around this tank, see if we can get to the puffers around the other side here. All right. Yeah, you can see some peas here. A male. There he is. Another male. One of the big females here. Where is she? Get her in frame. Oh, she's taken off. Another pea hanging out in the rotala. Yeah, there's anywhere from 11 to 18 pea puffers in here. And I've never had to feed them. It's like a male there looking at me. As you can see, they're all fat. And I don't know if we get down here close to the substrate. You might even be able to see a couple scuds in there. I'm not seeing any, but they're in there. So this is another tank, and as you can see, there's no green hair algae in here. They typically eat that, although they'll eat your moss first. If you have moss, they'll eat that first. And then they'll eat your hair algae. And then they'll eat your algae. And then they'll eat your plants. So that's, you decide if that's a benefit for you. Let's move on over to another tank here. This is what one of my tanks look like without scuds. Yes, I have tons of mystery snails and baby mystery snails, and I don't know if you can see that back there, but hundreds of mystery snails to come. But even with all those mystery snails and guppies which eat algae, they just can't, they just don't cut it. But plus side is I don't have any scuds in this tank. Downside is it's a mess. So again, there's the positives and the negatives. Lights are out and it's going to be hard to see. This, as many of you may know, is my pea puffer grow out tank. I do have 3 pea puffers in here. Right down in the corner there, hard to see, but they're there, kind of by that test strip that fell in the water. With this tank, I do feed scuds too, just to make sure that there's always a supply in here. And I will be, in a upcoming video, moving these pea puffers into the first tank, community tank, because I'll be moving those fully grown ones into the big community tank. So notifications, subscribe, all that stuff if you want to get those videos. Here, I built a fortress to keep my cats from petting my dojo loaches that are in here. But I have put scuds in here, but the dojo loaches and a couple of goldfish, I forget what type they are. But anyhow, they keep the scuds at bay. And some of you may remember this tank, which just recently became a green water tank. And that was after I put these rosy barbs in here. The reason I put the rosy barbs in here is that there was so many scuds that none of my plants would live. Like this is my, a year ago I did a video on propagating lily plants, and then right after that video, you haven't seen a lily leaf yet or since because the scuds took over, but after putting these rosy barbs in here, they have dropped the scud population. There's still scuds in here, but so few of them now that the tank has kind of become a mess. Another problem is my regular light died, so I put this Harbor Freight grow light on here. Probably not helping with the green water. But and I do have another tank that I am going to be putting these rosy barbs into here soon. I just want to give them a little more time in here to help make sure that I got every last bit of that, or as much of the scuds as possible, eliminated. But let me go show you some interesting stuff about the scuds. I'll be back at the table here. Back at the cup, and I wanted to show you some interesting facts about scuds. So you can see them all kind of piled up on stuff here, and I took this out of that tank. The roots, like I showed you in the first part of this video, sloshed the roots in this water, strained it out, put fresh water in it, put the bugs back in. As you can see, there's some snails in here. You can see it looks like there's some pink there, but because, and this is just a few hours ago, again, just a couple hours ago, I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but they've eaten the meat out of this snail. So it was a live snail. Here's one that still has a bit of the meat left in it. You might be able to see the red up in there. That's the snail meat that they haven't eaten out yet. These snails were 100% alive, and these things are so ravenous that if they run out of something to eat, they're going to eat something. So that's going to be kind of key to remembering when you decide, like, do I want these or not? Like, they can be super beneficial in so many ways. They'll keep your aquarium cleaner than anything else. It's sometimes nice to have a Scud tank so that if you have a plant that has a bunch of hair algae in it, just throw it in that Scud tank for a couple of days, maybe a week. And then you do have to quarantine that plant before you put it back in with your regular plants. But when I first had Scuds, before they made it to all of my tanks, that worked really good for me. The problem was I wasn't quarantining the plant. I was shaking it off, thinking that was good enough, put it in the other tank. 3 months later, had a Scud explosion. So the trick would be to quarantine the plant before you change it. I have actually quarantined plants from Scud tanks for, I usually do it for about 2 months, just to make sure. I take the plant out every 3 or 4 days. I shake it, just in case there's any Scud eggs or babies. And just keep an eye on it. But so you can eliminate them. Once they're in your gravel, though, you're not going to get rid of them unless you can find a way to poison them or let that gravel dry for a couple months in the sand and then maybe wash it a couple of times. Because I've had sand that was dried up for, at least the surface of the tank sand was dried for over a month, and added water, and sure enough, the Scuds came back. So the one thing I have seen with them where they are sensitive is that they really need oxygenation. They're kind of a canary in the coal mine for me with my tanks. If I'm running low on oxygen, the Scuds will all move to the top. Or if the ammonia gets high, you wouldn't think that a bug that lives in the nastiest of nasty would rely so much on oxygen and clean water, but of all my pea puffers, loaches, hillstream loaches, everything, shrimp, these guys are my most sensitive to ammonia and to a lack of oxygen. So if I see them all coming out to the top and not caring who's hunting them, they're coming to the surface to get air, I know that I need to get some more air going in there. Or sometimes that means the ammonia is high because that reduces the oxygen, or sometimes it means the heat's too high because that makes it harder for fish and critters to absorb oxygen. So yeah, I know it's probably kind of boring looking at this jar here. You'll see some of those Scuds in there. It looks like they're carrying around a buddy. Well, that's like a male and a female dancing is what that really is. Maybe not dancing, but they're making baby Scuds. So they are prolific as long as your temperatures aren't too high. These make a great food source for all sorts of fish. They're just, once you get them in your gravel, they love getting into sponges. Once they're in there and they start colonizing, you're probably not going to get rid of them very easily. Again, if you have fish that'll eat them, it'll usually reduce the population to a manageable amount. But in my that green water tank over there, before I had the barbs in there, I had hillstream loaches, pygmy cories, autosynclus. That's all I can think of for now, but had those in the tank, and none of them are eating the Scuds, so the Scuds just took over. So there is fish that'll eat them. I also, in the tank that I showed you at first with the pea puffers, originally I had that as a CPD breeding tank. But when I had the CPDs in there, they could eat baby Scuds, but not the grown-up ones, and they would just reproduce faster, and it ended up just taking over the tank. So yeah, this will be in my culturing videos playlist along with my vinegar eel cultures. Those are kind of fun to watch close up. But yeah, if you have any questions on culturing scuds, tips or tricks, anything, I tried to be thorough here, but I never write anything down and I just shoot from the hip. So I'm sure there's lots I missed. So please ask questions down in the comments. And if you like the video, if you like stuff like this, please like. It helps YouTube know that my videos are worth people looking at. I do most of my videos, or part of why I started was because I saw so much misinformation in the YouTube, not the YouTube, in the Facebook groups. So please share my videos in Facebook groups if you see a pertinent question or reason to do so. And yeah, subscribe, hit the notification. I hope this was helpful. And I do also have another video where it's about harvesting frog bit and scuds from my local fish store. In that video, you do see where the scuds latch on to a baby guppy that came up in the roots, and they're eating baby guppies alive. And you don't really see any of the really gruesomeness of it, but you can see that, yeah, they're definitely latching on to anything they can and eating it. So scuds can be very mean, very damaging, a big pain in the rear end. They can be a blessing. You know, if you're gone, you don't have the ability to feed food for a couple days, there's scuds, and there's baby scuds that even your smaller fish can eat. So it may not be as much food as they get on a day-to-day basis, but they'll get some food. Your scuds will keep your tank clean. But if you ever get into a situation where there's not enough big fish to eat the scuds will take over, and they'll eat everything on their way. And in the lower left-hand corner, my culturing videos. Thanks again, everybody, for watching. Hope you have a great day.